What's up, YouTube? JankyYGO here. My name is Michael, and today we are going over the deck that got me to plat. That's right. I'm back in plat. It took me a lot longer to get to plat this time than it did last time, but I made it playing Paleo-Frogs. Now, it's worth noting that out of the people on this channel, I do not play this deck very often. In fact, I am not a Paleo-Frog player, but I still managed to make it to plat with it, despite uh, it having a lot of weird matchups and stuff like that. But I made it to plat. Now, out of me and Stefan, the other person that runs this channel, Stefan is the person that plays Paleo-Frogs and plays that deck religiously in real life. In fact, Stefan made it to nationals with Paleo-Frogs. So, but without further ado, let's jump into my deck list. So we got 3 Dupe Frogs, 3 Swap Frogs, and 2 Ronin. This is the main frog engine and stuff like that. It's the frog engine. It gets going, all that, and yeah. The idea is pretty much, dupe. These are the 3 good frogs. So yeah. And I had most of these just kind of from opening packs. We got 2 Maxi. Maxi is the staple hand trap in this format. So, always worth running. We got 2 copies of Blue Boy, Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. I'm running the Spellbook Draw engine because I didn't really know what else to put in the deck, and I knew it was good in the deck and stuff like that. We got 3 Ash Blossoms. It's just a staple card. We got 2 Nibiru's. Nibiru is dead against a lot of decks, unfortunately. But it's okay in this deck because we can always discard it to Damascus. So it's not as bad as a brick. And it helps in some matchups. We got 2 Spellbook of Secrets to search the Blue Boy. We got 2 Pot of Desires. This is mainly because 3 kind of clunks, and for some reason in this game, and I can't explain why, when I play 3 desires, I always draw 1 or 2 more off of said desires. When I play 2, sometimes I'll draw 1, but most of the time I don't. So yeah. Spellbook of Judgment or Knowledge, more draw power. Good card. Called by the Grave. One of my favorite cards. It's a very busted card. It's a very, very strong card. But it is a very, very good card. And it's you can use it offensively and defensively. It's mainly defensively and stuff like that. But you can use it offensively, banish the Ray, stuff like that. Very good card. 100% recommend getting these if you haven't already crafted them. They're very, very good. Next up, we got the Paleo lineup, and most of these, as you can see, are normal rares. So we got the Spell and Trap card Disruption. This card's very good in Master Duel format as Eldritch. For climbing out of gold, there's like a ton of Eldritch in there, and this card is pretty decent against them. We got 2 Canadia. This is good for disrupting combos and stuff like that. Decks that want to link someone off, you can put them face down. Book of Moon is actually pretty relevant a lot of the time. We got Damascus, so that we can banish and remove cards. We can discard Nibiru. We can hold on to some of the other cards in our hands so that, this card's always live. You got to do that, but that's okay. It's not really that hard to, and stuff like that. 2 copies of Morella. Morella is a excellent card. It sets up some of the other cards, as well as, we can send our Lost Wind and stuff like that, and it turns off our Vanities, but Vanities, it's pretty easy for us to turn that off if we need it to. Lost Wind is a very, very powerful card, and it's actually, it's the quote-unquote budget version of Infinite Impermanence, so if you don't have those, but you have a lot of rare, tokens and stuff like that, consider this, because this card is going to do very similar things. Imperm is very, very good and very, very strong, and is a better card. However, this essentially is going to negate 6 monster effects, uh, and it is a very good defensive card to activate in the battle phase and the damage step, so that you can, make sure that you always have a trap card, not only a trap card online, but also a trap card, bring it back Paleo, but also to negate your opponent's plays and stuff like that, and make it harder to get over your dupe and your toad and stuff like that. So, and we got our 1 copy of Vanity's Emptiness. We can chain a Paleo to this, get our free summon, our last summon that's going to happen for a while to stop our opponent from summoning, and we have a 1200 beat stick monster. This also helps against Eldritch, surprisingly enough. When they activate their, card to special summon their Lord and stuff like that, or they activate any other trap cards that say, hey, summon, banish, summon, pop. Very good. Next up, we got 1 copy of Ammo Malachris. This card could probably be at 2, but it's also very fine at 1. You don't really make this card too much in this deck. At least I didn't make this card too much. And when I did make it, it was definitely like more of a push for game. Or they got rid of my Toad like permanently. 2 Opabinias. So Opabinia is like the go-to rank 2 in this deck outside of Totally Awesome. This is like definitely a very, very powerful card. And it searches any Paleo trap from your deck to your hand and allows you to activate them from your hand, which is very important. So, next up, number 45, Crumble Logos. Okay, so this card has actually won me a few games. I don't know how many people actually still run this card or whatever, but it has won me several games. Just because you can negate things, and as long as this card's up, that card is negated. And while that target is on the field, cards with the same name as that target cannot activate their effects and cannot be activated. So, in the Eldritch matchup specifically, for example, if you can make this and you can target their level 5, continuous trap cards, it'll go back into the back row in this game, and on top of that, they won't be able to activate any more of that card with the same name. So the one that banishes, for example, is actually really good against this deck because it can banish our Ronins. Well, we can shut that off, and they can never activate that card ever again. And yeah. Next, we got our 1 copy, because it's only at 1 in Master Duel, of Totally Awesome. So Totally Awesome is our go-to rank 2, and when it gets negated, or when it's sent to the graveyard, we 99% of the time we're putting Toad back, unfortunately. But there will be times when the correct play is just to leave Toad in the graveyard, and you don't need Toad anymore to proceed with the game. It's very hard to identify some of those things, especially when you get in the groove of playing this deck, as you might tunnel and think, hey, I'm just going to always put Toad back. Putting Toad back is right 99% of the time, but there will be times when, putting something else back is the correct play. We got 2 Javelins out of the 30-ish, 40-ish games I've played. I've made this twice. What does it do? Well, you target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and its effects are negated and its attacks change to 0. It's meant to get over big monsters and stuff like that. It's pretty good, but it does fall short into certain things. I would probably cut it down to 1 in favor of something else, but right now it is the best option that I had available to me with my tokens and stuff. I guess I could, since I have more SRs now, could craft something else, but I'm kind of saving these for a different deck. We got one Miss Starboy. Miss Starboy isn't as necessary, in my opinion, in this deck. I know that that might cause a lot of people to go, whoa, and the Starboy is really, really good. But it is kind of, it is meant more for an OTK and everything like that. There is an OTK in this deck, with where you make two Miss Starboys and one totally awesome, and then push for game if they have nothing. Or, you just make a Boral Sword using the Starboy to climb. So, it's pretty good. I definitely, it definitely should be in the deck as at least a one of. But yeah. Next up, we have a card that I've made a decent amount. It actually does a lot more than I thought it would. I know this card, it would sound weird, but Cerberus, Cerberus's main downside is it only pops monsters in the main monster zone. But I have, in several matchups, actually co-linked this to an opponent's monster, destroyed a monster in their main monster zone, and had the co-linked monsters I control not be able to be destroyed by card effects be relevant. Which is really funny. And, I get to draw a card after the card I discarded too, which is also pretty funny. It is good removal, pretty much. And yeah, it's a very good card. We got Phoenix. Phoenix is good spell and trap card removal as well. Sometimes you don't draw Opabenia, or Olenoids, and you just need to make Phoenix to get rid of a problematic spell or trap card. And it does its job. But, it has the downside of, using two monsters. Next up, this card I've made a decent amount, and this is actually the card I go to when I make my, when I go for push for game for my rank 4s, and that's Masquerade. So, because your link monsters cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, this allows you to have really strong monsters. So I don't use this first effect that often. In fact, out of all these games with this deck specifically, I've never used that effect. However, I have used that effect with other decks, so it is a very good effect. But the main effect being that it's a link to, and that the link monster cannot be destroyed by card effects. Very important, as it makes this one not be able to be targeted or destroyed by monster effects, but it can still be targeted by spell or traps, which is the downside of this, and that's why you don't really I don't usually make it Borreload with it. And Borreload has came up once where it's been really, really good. But the card that you're going to use to OTK most of the time is this card right here, Boral Sword Dragon. Cannot be destroyed by battle. With Masquerade, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, so they have to have targeting effect that doesn't destroy to get rid of it. Compulse can do it, for example, but not a lot of decks are playing Compulse at this moment. But yeah. So, Boral Sword is our game pusher. It's what we use to end the game. And now, our last card in the extra deck is Applepalooza. So, I have not made this card, ever. But it's in the extra deck. Realistically, another Mistar Boy. The Sky Cavalry, the one that bounces, is probably better. Maybe another Masquerina is better. The other ones I've made every single card in this extra deck except for Applepalooza. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile of a deck that carried me to Platinum. I can't even say carried. The matchups are actually still really hard. I don't recommend playing this deck unless you have a good idea of what you need to hit in the metagame for meta decks and stuff, or for the metagame of this Master Duel specifically, because it does have a lot of really hard and skill matchups. I would consider Eldritch a skill matchup, even though we have answers for everything, they have answers for us. stuff like that. There are awkward times in this deck and stuff like that. There'll be awkward things of this deck. It's worth noting that, like, you'll be forced to make really plays that seem suboptimal that will win you the game, but it doesn't matter as long as you win the game. Like, an example of this is I've special summoned a Dupe Frog off of Totally Awesome. That's a standard play. But what isn't a standard play is activating Lost Wind on my own Dupe Frog to get back a Paleo, so either I can make Toad again, or I can make an Opabinia. Which is very awkward, but it is what it is, and it does work sometimes. Important. Very important. But, and it's like I said, this is a pretty hard deck to pilot. I know that sounds dumb because that sounds not the case, because you can, you just set your trap cards and make a Toad. But making the choices and knowing what to do make this deck pretty hard if you're unfamiliar, not only with your opponent, but with this deck in particular. But that's going to do it for this video. If it is your birthday today, happy birthday. And if you want to send me any cool deck profiles or replays, my email is in the description. And of course, and as always, have a wonderful day.